Welcome to Legend Makers, the podcast where education's true heroes take center stage.
Shine like a ray from the sun. There's something people look for but never can find.
And we are back with another episode of the Legend Makers podcast. Today, I am excited. I have Tony Tegtmyer with me today. I have known you for, oh my gosh, years now, socially on social media. I know you've been on a few of our, webinars and you've been vocal there, but you and I haven't had a chance to actually sit down and get to know one another, have we?
Not really. I mean, I've known you, like you say, for several years. I've been involved with drones. I don't even know how long. Been interested forever since I ever, first knew about drones. And then I think it was through some conferences and some mutual contacts. I met you and, I think we shared a couple of sessions and we're in some sessions. So, follow each other. I think what you do is absolutely amazing. So glad to be able to sit down and just kind of rap with you.
Yeah, I'm excited about this. I really, really am. So I'm gonna look, man. I always start off with this bio. I know that's a kind of a boring thing for like just to read, but let's all hear because then you'll fill in the blanks here. So you're a high school technology teacher, technology and engineering teacher at Nequa. Is that how I pronounce it?
Yeah, Nequa Valley, very close. Very
Nequa
good.
Valley High School in Naperville, Illinois. This I know about. You started the Girls in STEM Club. And you are the leader of the country's largest high school competitive rocket club and the aerial robotics club at your school. So you're doing some really cool stuff. You're a Project Lead the Way Engineering Teacher of the Year in 2020, Outstanding Teacher for 2019, and you're a Project Lead the Way Master Teacher for the Engineering Design and Development Principles of Engineering and Aerospace Engineering courses. Yep. Am I doing all this right?
Yep,
the National Center for Women and Information Technology recognized you as an honorable mention educator for aspiration in computing. Oh, you tell me about that. He is also the author of Real Engineering and Experiments, 25 plus exciting STEAM activities for kids. Man, all right. You got a lot going on. Now give us the real deal. Like tell me what makes you tick. What got you into all this?
Yeah. So I suppose a little bit of background. So I got my undergraduate in aerospace engineering, worked in industry for a few years, thought I was going to be there forever, because when you graduate and you like what you do, I loved aerospace engineering. And I had a couple of summer jobs while I was in school. One was with Space Shuttle and another with the space station.
Oh, cool.
And I ended up going with the space station project after I graduated. So I was a propulsion engineer. So
really?
So somewhere in my basement, I think there's still a card that says rocket scientist or something.
You are a rocket scientist.
I'm a recovering rocket scientist. Yeah.
But when someone says it's like rocket science, you're like, yeah, I've seen rocket science. This ain't it.
Right. Yeah. So when people say, well, it doesn't take a rocket scientist, I can vouch for that.
That's right.
So that's been a long time. But so when I was working on that project, there's a change in presidential administration. I was going for my master's degree at the time, which interestingly enough, I found was a little bit easier. And maybe it was because it was for professionals. It was easier at night in those classes than it was in my undergrad. I think I don't know if I just beat myself up for undergrad or not, but so anyway, I went from so the propulsion part of the space station was then given to the Russians. So my job was given to the Russians. LinkedIn, the internet was really in its infancy. I was maybe 3 years into a job, so I didn't have a lot of networking contacts. I had the world by the tail, though. I lived 2 blocks from the beach in Southern California, had no kids, a really good job. But life throws curveballs as you well know.
Of course.
And so my wife grew up here in Illinois, where we live now, and I met her at school in Iowa State. Go Cyclones. Sorry, that's a reflex. So moved back here, got a job, interviewed for an engineering position, and they called me back a couple of days later and said, we have this product manager job. And I was like, well, I don't even know what that is. And they explained it. So it was, I had one foot in marketing, sales and marketing, and one in engineering, but they also gave me production. I had full P&L.
Wow.
Which kind of blew my mind as, really kind of a young guy at the time. So I
threw you right in.
Oh, yeah. And
tossed you right in.
learned a ton there,
Yeah, I
and
bet.
I had a
I
good
bet.
mentor who just taught me all kinds
And
of
where
things.
was this? Where was this?
This was back in it's here in the Chicago area, and it was for an
Uh-huh.
automotive company. It
Oh,
was called
okay.
Senior Flexonics. They made flexible metal tubular products, exhaust
Huh.
system components,
Yeah.
engine components, and things like that.
Interesting.
And learned a ton about manufacturing and just all kinds of things beyond engineering.
I'll bet. Sure.
And uh, and actually, that grew so fast that kind of became unmanageable. Well,
Hmm.
and so you kind of make a name for yourself, and people get to know you, and found an opportunity at another company, very similar role, but that was in manufacturing as well. So they were the world's largest manufacturer of cable ties.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Really?
the little things that you put on
Those little zip
tomato plants.
ties.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. So
The world's
I
largest manufacturer of zip. See, there's huge businesses in the smallest things, isn't there?
and I didn't even think about these things. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
cable ties, big deal, but it really was. And so
Think
I learned
about
a
it.
lot there too. I got to travel all over the world and all over the country, which was very valuable because you learn a lot working with people in other cultures.
I'll bet.
And
Sure.
I remember one particularly fun project. I wasn't the lead on it, but part of the project. There's a little airplane company up in Seattle, Boeing,
Yeah. I've heard of them, I think.
and
Yeah.
yeah, I think yeah, you might have heard of them. So they used to have there's miles and miles of wires and cables,
Zip
between
ties all in those airplanes.
yes,
Really?
exactly.
It's held together by zip ties, is it?
Yeah, so when you're sitting on the ground, it's ready for takeoff. They got the coffee going. They're getting ready to do. They're heating meals if you're lucky enough to have one now.
Yeah, right.
But they're doing there's all kinds of things going on. And when you're sitting in that seat, right next to the window, there's a little space there between you and the outside, and that's where they run all these wires and cables. And
Wow,
there's
yeah.
miles of it. So they had, I
Huh.
want to say, I don't remember the exact numbers, over 70 parts, different part numbers to affix wires and cables to the airframe, to the structure of the aircraft. So,
Hmm.
long story short, we had a project where we went from 70 some parts to two. So we saved
Huh.
them a ton of money. So that was a kind of a really fun project. So
How do you go
um,
from 70 to two? I mean, that's
very carefully.
very,
It took several years of,
wow.
making different prototypes and taking them to their engineers, to their
Yeah.
production floor to test, and then doing our own testing and have them do testing.
Huh.
So
Interesting.
it,
Yeah.
it was a great exercise in innovation and true engineering.
So this is
So again,
kind of
I
your
was,
third job out of school, this third kind of move in. So you're
yeah,
tracking, you're connecting the dots looking backwards. I'm thinking about your trajectory here. So this is kind
yeah,
of the next phase into Boeing. It's pretty cool. Yeah.
yep. Um, and then so from there, that company, cable ties are used all over.
Yeah.
So I also had some time in data centers and technology, a
Yeah,
lot going on
sure.
in data centers. So every time you Google anything, that message goes out to 70 different data centers to collect all that information. And these things. Have you ever been in a data center? They're full of,
Never.
oh my gosh, they're kind of engineering marvels themselves. So it's just full of computer servers and this
Just servers, server
heat.
farms, just racks of
Yeah,
servers, right?
acres and acres. Pretty unbelievable. So there's some pretty good technical challenges there.
Do they still use
And it's
like plenary floors for cooling? Do they still have these like, because when I actually did a small stint at believe it or not, a flooring company that did like raised access floors. And
exactly.
so they use that for like the cooling, like these plenary channels that go out. I mean, they're kind of the box, they were kind of the 4-peg box that
Yep.
was higher up. This
Yep.
company I worked for did like a low profile where you were just doing cabling and network management. It was pretty cool actually. But
Yeah.
that's interesting. So they have farms of these things that sit on top of these like for the cooling, right? Because they're hot, right?
Oh, very high. Yeah.
Extremely
Yeah.
hot.
Yeah. So yeah, I went from cable ties to like just exactly what you were talking about, trying to solve the thermal problem.
Huh.
So anyway, and so I had worked, at the same company, cable tie company, but it's a different type of market and different application. And that company had several different divisions. So they had all kinds of cable management products. In fact, with my engineering kids, my capstone kids, they have to pick a problem to solve, and then I take them through the engineering design process. But I have them come
Yeah.
up with a little elevator pitch on what their problem is.
Huh.
And so I remember, people would ask me, who do you work for? What do they do? Well, we design and manufacture things that bundle, route, fasten, contain, and terminate wires and cables.
Mm.
I
There's
still
a nice
remember.
pitch.
I still remember
It's
that.
great. It's a great 30-second elevator pitch, man.
Still remember that.
It works.
So I remember, I came home from work one day. We've all had our bad days, right? We're human.
Yeah.
And my wife is a teacher. That's all she's ever done. And I came home from work using some language that I won't use here because this is a family environment.
It's a rated G
Yes.
podcast. Yeah, this is for the.
And she said,
we'll keep it clean.
Yes. And so I came home. I was getting ready to, put my coaching uniform on, my whistle and stuff. I was coaching my son's football team.
Oh, okay.
And, hey, how was work? And I kind of grumbled a little bit. She said, you need to get out of there and be a teacher. Huh. And I said, you do think everyone should be a teacher, because she liked her job and she was very good at it.
Mm-hmm.
So off to football practice I go, come home, and I see on the table there's all of this information about grad school for education.
Huh.
And I thought, that's what I thought. I'm like, because she already had 2 master's degrees.
So she put it all out there for you to see?
Yeah, but I didn't, I'm kind of dense. I didn't know it was for me. I didn't know she was serious. I thought it was for her, because she's, always going back to school. Yeah. And I'm like, you have 2 master's degrees. Why are you going, why are you doing this? She said, no, that's for you.
Wow.
And I thought, that's kind of what I said. I'm like, wow, okay. Like, you were really serious. So long story short, sorry for the really long answer here.
No, sorry. I love this. This is cool.
So, I took a look at this. I took a couple of classes. I actually subbed a little bit, and I liked it.
I bet, huh?
I'm sure you were a great kid when you had substitute teachers in school. I might have been one of those kids that,
Dude, I was horrible, man.
raised his hand to go to the bathroom.
I was the worst, man. I was just thinking that I was so bad. I got sent away. I was so bad. Like, I was the kid you didn't want in your class. I wasn't just checked out. I was disruptive. I was horrible.
And you know what? I when I tried it, I liked it. And so I figured, if I like it when, I have kids like you and me, then I would probably like it when I had my own classroom. Uh-huh. So went back to school, got my master's in education and teaching. And, because I was an engineer and had that background, I was going to teach and get certified in high school physics. So I was teaching AP physics and regular physics here at the high school I'm at now. Mm-hmm. And it was getting close to the end of my student teaching, and I saw a job opening for an engineering teacher here at my school. Huh. And I thought, that's like one of the craziest things I've ever seen. High school engineering, because I'm an old guy. We didn't have that. I had mechanical drawing.
That's right.
And so I went and found the department chair. Huh. They said, what kind of person are you looking for? And they said, well, someone with engineering background and someone that knows physics. And I said, well, so I interviewed. I'm your guy, and long story short,
there you are.
Here I am 12 years later. And
wow.
I don't know if it was Confucius, someone famous a long time ago said, if you find a job that you love, you'll never work a day in your life.
Yeah.
And I've been playing for 12 years. So
that's great. I think that's amazing. I joke. Well, that was cool. Thank you for your story, by the way, because I didn't know the background on you. And I think I would enjoy teaching. I got to tell you, I think when I get in front of a group of kids, there's something that happens. I tend to gravitate towards the littles. I don't know. There's something about them. High schoolers, they're tough. I've got a teenager. Last year's a teenager. In a few weeks, he's not anymore. But
nice.
That's rough. But they too are. I like them all. I think it's fun to work with kids. I think about me and I go, oh boy, man, you are just a rough one. But those are the ones that are like most fun. I think in a lot of ways, the challenges, right? Like breaking through and having,
and the thing is, you never
breaking
know,
through.
Right. And you never know who you're getting through to. I mean, I get emails from students, my 12th year teaching. So a lot of my first students, they're graduated from college now.
Yeah.
And I get awesome emails from students that I hadn't heard from for 10 years.
Awesome.
That will reach out and just say, hey, I just wanted to let you know Here's what I'm doing. You really affected me. Thank you.
See,
And that's kind of what makes it really worth it.
what could be, I mean, I don't know that there's a lot of things that are much better than that. I got to be honest. I mean, that really must feel terrific to know that you've impacted somebody and that they want to you had such an impact that they're willing to take the time to write you and thank you for kind of changing the trajectory of their life.
It does.
So what
it totally
is
made
there
it
one
worth it.
standout where you're like, this person's doing something that's like the coolest thing ever? Like, are you jealous of any of your graduates?
Oh my gosh, they're so smart. They're way smarter than me. So, and they have a lot of cool technology now too, like
Yeah,
with AI and some of these other things.
for sure.
Gosh, I could probably go on. One of the more memorable ones.
Mhm.
Well, there was one from my first year, and then one from a couple of years ago. So
Okay.
I have this capstone class where I think I mentioned they pick a problem to solve, and then I take them through the engineering design process. So they
Mhm.
have to design, build, and test a solution, and along the way they give some presentations and get feedback from engineers. And so imagine that a Roomba, the vacuum cleaners,
Yeah.
got married with a lawnmower, and had a baby. And
Yeah.
so, what if you had a Roomba for your yard? And those
There's
things
one of these
do
out here in my neighborhood. It's
they
crazy.
do exist,
Yeah.
but they put their own little spin on it, and
It's cool.
they made a real live working full size model,
Did they?
which
Wow.
scared the living daylights out of me because I thought this blade
This
that's
blade.
spinning fast enough to cut grass. I don't want that.
Ugh.
We can't have that in school. But I mean, that's one. There's dozens of
Uh,
them. But yeah, they're pretty amazing
what
with what they can
kind
do.
of guardrails do you give them in terms of just anything that they want? Is it open? Kind of just solve a problem?
Yeah, solve a problem.
Really?
So, and that's probably the hardest part. One of the hardest parts of the class is picking a problem to solve.
That's right.
Um,
Yeah.
but that's a good question, guardrails, because um, we have the school year to design. Sorry for the bell there.
It's all right. It's cool.
Uh, yeah, so we have a limited budget and a limited time, but
Mhm.
you can still do a lot with that. So, for example, I remember a couple years ago. The problem is, and you probably have heard of all this plastic that's floating around in the ocean, these huge islands
Sure.
of plastic.
Yeah.
And kids want to solve big problems, and so they wanted to tackle that. And so instead of building this huge barge, that's the size of a city block, I said, well, why can't we take that technology and just do a proof of concept? So they built,
Hmm.
a scale model of a potential solution, and they put it in their bathtub with rubber duckies, and um, you know, so I honestly don't care if these. I mean, I do care a little bit if their prototypes work, but I care more
Yeah.
about them learning about the process.
The
And they
process.
do a
Yeah.
really good. They do a really good job of that.
I
So
think
yeah, we have
working
some
under
guardrails, but
constraints. Yeah, I think the constraints too probably is a good thing for them because that's important, right? Especially in like the
right,
real world, there's limited time, there's limited resources.
right,
I know I've been on the receiving end of this, where we've built these products and we didn't have a clear roadmap in front of us. And we've just been like barreling. It was like building the train on the tracks. And you wake
yes,
up, 6 to 8 months later, you're like, whoo, what did we spend on this again? Like, wow, couldn't we have done that a little bit more efficiently? And
right,
so having like that, is your constraints in the beginning of like, look, we've got this much time and this much money.
yep,
And so your solution needs to fit within those parameters. I think that'll be
yeah.
real helpful when they get out into the real world, when that is the actual case.
Yep. And so, there are those budgetary constraints too, because I remember
Yeah.
that team that I was talking about with the the lawnmower Roomba. So what I have them do is put together a bill of materials for what they think they need. So they each
Okay.
pay, I think it's a $50 lab fee, and so that
Hmm.
basically goes into a pool for the class. And so
Okay.
I manage that. So I have every team come up with their costed bill of materials, and if we're over the class budget, then I sort for what is the most expensive thing, go back to that team and say, do you really need an $800 motor? Can we find an $80 motor that does the same
Hmm.
thing?
Hmm.
So they learn, that's like you say, kind of some real world
Yeah.
experience there, and make things work given those constraints. So,
So yeah.
and I get a lot of emails even from freshmen. They're going to college the next year saying how helpful, not necessarily I was, but just what they learned in that class. They find it very helpful. They're very comfortable. So engineering, um, you know, depending on your school. I think it's pretty consistent among schools and universities. Probably 25 to even 30% of those first year kids will switch to another major or drop out because maybe they're not prepared, maybe they didn't have
Tough.
the right background, and it's kind of challenging.
It is
So,
challenging. I was going to ask you. So, is it an elective? Is your program an elective? It's not.
yeah.
So,
So for the senior class, we have I think 5 or 6 engineering classes. So they're all
okay.
honors level.
Okay.
So which means if you get, so we're on a 4-point scale. So if they get an A, they actually get a 5, that goes on their GPA.
Nice.
So they're all like that. So this capstone class, they have to have taken a couple of prerequisites.
Okay.
So they do have to, know some things before they get there.
And you've done drones. So tell me about your drone world. So you and I met through the drone space, and we sat on panels together back like in the pandemic era.
Yes.
Which seems like
Online
starting to
conferences.
it's starting to be back in the rearview mirror now, isn't it? A while. I mean, it's like we're coming up on 6 years, are we? Like, wow, it's hard to believe.
And you know what? I still lean back on a lot of that material that we developed for those conferences then.
Yeah.
So drones. So I was way back when, before I started drones, I was a science Olympiad coach here, and I kind of started toying around with drones personally. And we have a really big, just regular robotics club here. There's in high school, there's VEX and there's FIRST. Those are kind of the big ones, but there really wasn't anything for drones. I'm like, well, drones are really just flying robots.
Sure.
And so I talked to administration and kind of put my Science Olympiad coaching shirt away and started a drone club. I had no idea what I was doing.
Nice.
It was just, hey, let's mess around with some drones. And one thing that I really thought was important was, well, at least that I wanted, because there's drone soccer, there's drone racing, there's a lot of those leagues and things like that, which are all fun and great.
It's great stuff.
But I kind of wanted to be a little bit more like, kind of compete with our VEX robotics teams. So in other words, design something for a specific task, a little bit more engineering. Yes. So something custom and kind of more engineering oriented. So that's
how did that go?
First year, it was like we were great, and through communications with you and some of the guys that we know in Texas and SMU, they have the Arise organization, and so we started competing in that and going down there every year. And so now that the club went from, I think, 10 people, and now I have to turn people away each year. So we have I don't know, I'd call them tryouts, but applications
for the drone program.
So we have 3 teams of 10. And so during the fall, I have what I call Drone University. So all the new people and even veterans have to go back and learn about, what is the relationship between motors and ESCs and batteries, for example. Propellers, how do you pick the right propeller? And just all those things. Safety, what are the FAA regulations? And some of those things are kind of fun and challenging, and some, like, the FAA regulations they're not so fun, but
not
they're
very fun at all. It's right. It's you ever remember the first time looking at a sectional chart and going, what's that?
How do you read this thing?
What the hell is that?
Right. What's the G space, E space? I don't know.
For those who don't know, just Google sectional chart and you'll just head will explode.
Your eyes will cross.
You go, what is that? And you have to figure it all out. They have because I have my 107, and so
same.
And you have to kind of go through these scenarios, and we built one for the classroom, an FAA Part 107 program, because it just didn't exist, and they did a great job on it. And but I remember trying to decipher that stuff and just going, and you just have to know it, and it's one of those things where it isn't about practical, which is always a mind blower to me. There's zero practical, right? You could never touch a drone in your life and get your 107.
That was one thing that I didn't expect about. People told me about that, and I think you actually sent me a bunch. I was looking back. You sent me a lot of information to help me some videos, which were free instead of paying for the $100 course. Which those are fine too, but I found that most helpful. So I still have those, and I save those and share them with
that guy's video was fantastic. I would love to give him a plug here. He was a photographer. And it's a little old, but I think a lot of it still holds up. It's getting a little dated now, but if you still watch it, he really broke all of these concepts down in such a way. I mean, I think I watched that video probably and it's a long video. It's like a 3-hour video or something.
Yep.
And I watched it like 4 times and just kept, rewind, repeat, watch this. Cause he would answer a lot of the questions that like a noob would have. Like, well, why do they want you to know that? Like, that seems weird. And he'd be like, look, they just want you to have appreciation for like, airspace and runway patterns. And you're like, why am I learning like runway patterns at airports?
Right.
These kinds of things.
If you can take that and pass that, I mean, you're halfway. I don't know this for a fact, but I have several students who are becoming pilots, and they have their Part 107, and they say that how much that has helped them with their ground school test and becoming a pilot.
Nice.
Yeah. So.
Excellent. Oh, yeah, I'm sure it does. I mean, as a kind of a precursor to actually going and getting your actual pilot's license.
Yeah.
Oh, I can imagine it would be. I mean, because you're not stepping in cold. You have somewhat of an understanding of airspace and how to read those charts, NOTAMs.
Right.
I
remember, with those sectional charts, the first time I looked at them, I just thought it was good. But there was something after a while, it just kind of clicked.
Starts to make sense.
I could kind of get it. But still, there was always there's always that one question on the test. There's that symbol you don't really know. And so you kind of guess. That was wild.
So, do you have any standout like designs? Is there any like drone? Do you have like a wall of like fame? Do you have just like a room full of like drone prototypes that you guys have created over the years?
That's funny you say that. I mean, we do. So we've bought in a bunch of kits. We bought in, I don't know, like 3 or 4 different kits. We have some custom parts. And so what I've done this semester, now we have a new crop of kids. So I have last year's veterans, just because, when you fly, you crash all the time. So we have a bunch of spare parts. So we've taken everything apart now. And the next thing my new people are going to learn are how to put everything together.
Back together, sure.
Yeah. So we kind of have some favorites that we built.
I bet.
And, if you can buy a kit easily, you can spend $1,500, or you could spend, $600 on all the different parts.
Yeah.
And then, for that's the club and the competition, and it's totally different than, the classroom. And so I buy some different things. I just got a grant finally. I've been trying for years to get some for the classroom.
Congrats.
So,
Congratulations.
I have an aerospace engineering class is one of the others that I teach. And I teach coding and robotics as part of that. And so I've always wanted to do, and I've kind of halfway done, like a perseverance and an ingenuity type project for the class.
Yeah. So what would that look like? For those that don't know, Perseverance and Ingenuity are the Perseverance Mars rover, and Percy, otherwise known as Percy, and then Ingenuity was the Mars drone or helicopter, as they call it, who's now, I guess, laying on her side, and that's Ginny, right? But she was up there for quite a bit. I mean, it actually exceeded all expectations. Right? It was a really cool project.
I think it was only supposed to fly like 5 times and flew something like
80.
Go
off. I think it was supposed to go up if it flew at all. Like go up, spin around and land was like mission accomplished, right? Like we could do it. We got the thing to lift off the ground.
Yeah,
and that thing went up there and ran like 80 missions and defied all expectations. That team did a great job.
They were incredible.
So you're going to replicate that in school?
So I've got the Perseverance part down. So I have some Arduino based cars. So I teach a little coding, just the basic stuff. What are variables and loops and conditional statements and so on. And I have a little test bed with Arduino, so they learn inputs and outputs, and then we apply that to the car. So Perseverance, so they can program a particular path. So but the path, and where drones come in, Ingenuity or a classroom drone, is it's going to have a sensor and it will fly around the classroom and pick out. On Mars they have big boulders that you want
totally. I love this. I love this.
And
this
so
is so
in class,
cool.
we have. I don't know where they came from, but we have cinder blocks and other things that I can put down. So, the drone flies over with the sensor and essentially creates a map. And then sends that, that team sends their information to the programming team for the Perseverance and for the car. And then so they have to program a way to get around that. So
that's amazing. I love that because that's the real deal. I mean, that is really why, it's funny. I'm so glad you said this because I will go to schools and I have a bunch of slides on drones and using, and I talk about that exact use case for ingenuity and why would you need a drone? I said, imagine when there's, because the drone right now, Perseverance has to move at such a pace because it's only seeing like what's right in front of it, right? So it's but imagine
really
you
slow.
could get out over and be like, hey, this is the clear path forward, beam those instructions back and just say, hey, this is a faster way to get to point A to B. And bam, it cruises. Imagine when we're doing human exploration and it can go out over and relay information back to a scouting team of what's ahead, right? Like
That's
mapping the terrain, and it'd be huge when we start to do things like that.
Yeah.
So
go to the left because to the right there's a cliff. And you don't want to go there. Or
you don't want to go to the cliff.
Whatever.
But I love that you're doing that and you're replicating that in your classroom. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. So looking to fully implement that this year because I've gotten a couple of different drones to play with, but have not been able to fully implement it in class. So this year,
does NASA give you a grant for that?
I wish. No, where did we get it? I don't remember where we got it. Actually.
Yeah, it seems like, hey, NASA, if you're listening, this guy needs more money. NASA, listen up.
Gladly share my contact info.
There you go. Well, we're going to put it out there. Somebody forward this to somebody at NASA. And he's replicating ingenuity and perseverance in his classroom, which I think is just the coolest.
Well, NASA used to be my customer. So back in the old days. So.
That's awesome. So let me ask you this. You got into teaching kind of almost by accident, and you found that you loved it. And what are you seeing in like school today? I mean, we live in, I don't want to say weird times because every time's weird. I was trying to explain that to my wife this morning. She's like, we live in such weird times. I'm like the 20th century
probably
wasn't
thought
weird.
that too, right?
I was like, so like 2 world wars and Vietnam. I said, so like the 20th century wasn't a weird century, right? Like people like to think that today is so weird. I think the only thing today is it gets amplified because we're all on social media. But
exactly.
Clearly we've got a pretty good thing going on. People they forget that there was a time when my 19-year-old son was being drafted to go to war. I think people forget about this stuff. And it's like, you can't, don't think that today is so rough. It's never perfect.
We have it pretty well. There's always somebody, always somebody worse off.
What do you see it in schools? Like where's education? What's exciting for you, or what's your challenges? Just kind of give me a sense of like what you're feeling in the school systems. You're in the public school systems?
Yeah, public school. Yeah, so we're one of the largest in Illinois. We're or at least our district. We have 3 high schools. It depends on the year. We go back and forth with an adjoining district. We're the 3rd or the 4th largest. So we're pretty big, but we have and even our demographics within our district vary quite a bit.
Yeah. Okay.
But I think one thing that I see, and I'm sure you probably see this too, is AI. And what is that doing? If I'm an English teacher, that's pretty tough. But engineering. Depending on the class and the assignment, I encourage my kids to use it, but in a controlled way. Don't hop on Chat GPT and just take their output. And that's not your own. That's right. But use it to help you
debug. It can be a great debugger.
Absolutely. And I've even used it if I want to come up with or freshen up a unit or a lesson or even create something new.
Yeah.
And I'll probably use it in the coming weeks to hone the aerospace engineering mission that I was talking about.
Absolutely.
I'll feed it in and have it give me some feedback. So I think that's one of the big things that I see, and it's changing so rapidly. Even just within the last 12 months, there's different apps and things. I've always before teaching, I was always comfortable with technology. I wouldn't call myself a technology guru, but I'm comfortable with it. And I've written code in the past for a lot of different things, so I'm comfortable. But using the last 12 months AI and how it's changed, so trying to keep up is really it's hard. It's very challenging.
You think teachers need guidance? And I think there's a whole space here where it's like, I think the schools are struggling with it because it's here, right? You're not going to put that genie back in the bottle. And so it's literally here, and it's now about how do you use it? So I think there's kind of 3 pieces to it. There's policy and there's policy, right? There's like district wide school systems. What is our AI kind of policy? And that it informs kind of how we frame it for the rest of the district and the schools. And then What are teachers? How can it benefit educators? Because I don't think it replaces at all. I think
No.
it makes. I think it can actually make teachers more effective, and it can bring teaching back to, I think, what teaching used to be, which is it can take a lot of the administrative stuff that just bogs educators down away, and it can free you up to really do more engaging things one-on-one with your students. It can one-on-one lessons for your kids. It can much more
Absolutely.
tailor. And then the third part of it is the kids. It's kind of like, okay, we've kind of got policy. We teach teachers how to utilize it and what to look out for and all that kind of. There's a teacher model, and then there's the student kind of component, which is the third leg to the stool, and that is, how do we train them? What do we, to your point, like, don't just use it. Don't accept what it gives you out of the gate, right? Like the rule of five, like kind of press it and test it and use it. There's ways to use it, and there's ways to really not use it. I mean, there's this kind of this very elementary copy paste thing.
Oh, and I can, and you can tell. Most people can tell,
100%.
especially the way kids don't write the way adults write, just because they don't have the experience, not because they're not smart. They just don't have that experience of professional writing and being in the workplace. So you can tell.
But most adults don't write like that either. I mean, we just don't.
Exactly.
A lot of people don't speak or write like that. It's fairly obvious when it's just a clear cut and paste, right?
Yeah, it is. But trying to prove that, like talking about it like an academic honesty issue, sometimes it's kind of tough. And there are tools that are out there. Sometimes it's pretty easy. Sometimes it's tough. It's having those right conversations with students and constantly talking about the right way to use it. But that's challenging too, because there's so many different platforms and uses.
And it changes so fast. It's just one day. It's not like the internet. I mean, that moves at a snail's pace compared to what this is. Like, you can literally be sitting here day one, and on a week later, GPT 6.3 is out. It's doing things that 4 would have done. I mean, just look at what's happened in just the last couple of years in terms of like image and video generation. I mean, it's almost scary.
Yeah,
you remember the old hands? You were like, look at the hands. Or like, they had these weird club fingers like morphed together, and the faces were really weird, and you could just tell it was bizarre. And now Sora, some of these videos coming out of like Sora and Midjourney, they're almost. And it's kind of scary. You also have to teach kids, like, what are you seeing really? Like, how do you know that what you're looking at is actually real? My wife was so upset when she found out the bunnies aren't real. She was like, the bunnies jumping on the trampoline. Look how cute. And I go, it's not real. She's like, I hate this. She goes,
and you want it to be real.
She's like, that was so cute. You just ruined my day. I'm like, I'm sorry. I said, because look, there's raccoons doing it too. And you see the little one that falls through the vinyl, and it doesn't like, it just goes right through it. I'm like, yeah, they're not real. It's cute. I know. And you really wanted it to be real. She's just, just broke her heart that it wasn't real.
Yeah. And that's so true, because, you have 10 minutes and you scroll through Twitter or Facebook or whatever, whatever platform you're on, and, 5 minutes turns into 10 and so on. And you see these videos, and you always go, wait, is that real or not? Because there's so much fake stuff.
It's crazy. But so I think there's huge there.
Yeah, but I think, to your question about, what do I see in schools? That's a really big thing. I think, right after COVID, it was really hard to teach students to be students again, because they were at home for so long. I felt it took several years, and I don't know if we're still there yet, back to where we were before COVID. And just in terms,
it's kind of a shame, isn't it? I mean,
of study skills, and I'll just come out and say work ethic, and grit and determination, a lot better than it used to be. But I'm not sure we're back to where we were.
How do we get back? Is there a pendulum swing going to happen here? I think there is.
I do. I see it getting better, and I don't think you can take a hammer and say, you have to, you toughen up a little bit.
Be gritty, right?
Yeah.
Should we bring paddles back?
I had an elementary teacher, elementary principal that had one,
I'm
and
telling you, man.
he made it aerodynamic because he had drill holes in it so he could swing it faster. Not that I would
we're
know.
we're not advocating for that.
No,
Honestly,
no,
clearly we're
We're
not.
not.
But I mean, I dealt with some stuff too. I'm of an age too where I went to elementary school in the 70s, right in the early 70s, and so they were. I had a teacher that was chalkboards, right? So we remember
Yep.
chalkboards, and I had a teacher that would literally just he would literally light you up with a dusty chalkboard eraser, and you'd get hit in the head, and the powder would fly, and nobody thought anything of it. He was allowed to do that.
Yep.
Because I was acting a fool, right? And so I had it coming, But yeah, we had a teacher that would make us put gum if we were caught chewing gum.
Oh,
He'd make us
boy.
walk around all day with a piece of gum stuck to our nose all day.
So that was their version of like the dunce cap that was
Yeah,
way back
wear the gum on the tip of your nose, and then we would just pull it. We would just stretch it and chew it.
That's hilarious. I didn't have that one. I had the teacher that threw erasers, and we had to same teacher. It was science. So if you got caught doing something really bad, you'd have to hold one of those little stoppers that go into like a flask. You'd have to stand up against the wall and hold that for X number of minutes, and if it fell, the clock started over.
And we'd have to hold books.
Oh man,
out like this, and your shoulders would start shaking. All right, kids, don't try this at home. We're not advocating for that coming back, but
that's a TikTok.
I do think that you're going to have. I even think that some of the generation longs for it a little bit. Not that stuff, but a little bit of because it's harder if you don't have it. There's that whole thing about like the trees. You ever hear it? Did you ever read the book The Anxious Generation?
I have not. No.
You should it's a good read. It's actually an interesting read. And it basically is talking about the kids that we took them out of outside play and put them online. And they've just become this generation of kids that just they suffer from anxiety, social issues, girls in particular on like Instagram and having all kinds of issues there. And we because we thought we were putting them in safe spaces, yet we stick them in these online places where there's no regulation as opposed to going outside and playing. And there was this whole idea of the saplings, the biodome in the 90s. They tried to like make people live in a dome if we're going to live on Mars. And when the experiment was all over, they realized that some trees were toppling and they couldn't figure out why. And it's because in that controlled environment, there was no wind. And so the saplings were never subject to wind. And so they never put down strong roots. Because that's a known thing. Saplings need pressure and wind in order for those roots to take, so that when they grow big and tall, they don't fall over. Yeah. And that's the kids, right? That's if we shelter them too much and we put them in these little boxes and they don't feel the wind as children, as they become adults, they're not equipped to deal with the realities, the harsh. I think I'm an optimist. I think there's a lot of good in this world, but the reality is the world can be a very hard place sometimes. And I don't know if we're preparing our kids for that. And I think it does them a disservice. And I think there are some of them that are a little bit resentful of it as they get older. Yeah. Like I'm not equipped, and it's frustrating. It must be.
Yeah. So one of the things I do try to do, at least in my class, because I totally agree with everything you just said, is, and you probably know from your experience, if I don't know if there's any such thing as a typical day for an engineer or any job. I suppose there's some jobs, but you get to work at whatever time, and your boss comes in and lays something on your desk and says, from his boss or a customer, there's some major disaster and they need an answer and they need it fixed by an hour and a half. So you have to drop everything you're doing. You don't have all the information that you need, and you never will, but you still have to come up with a solution.
Yeah.
So it's solving problems and working with ambiguity or not enough information. So I do try to put my kids in that situation, and and I get some feedback that, oh, this is hard, and I explain why. And I think they appreciate that. I actually have had, so at the end of the year, I always give the kids a little survey. What did you like about the class? What did you not like about it? Is there something I can do better? I remember a couple of years ago, one student who said it's okay to be harder on us. And I was like, okay,
that's cool.
I thought that was really good. I mean, they're always,
Excellent.
as soon as we're born, human beings, we're always begging our parents to make it easy. Give me this and give me that, and I don't want to work for it. But in the end, they do want to. They do like to be
They,
challenged.
they do. I
They
think
do.
they do. That's,
Yeah.
you know what? I like that. I think I'm looking at the time, and I know you have some limited time today. I think that's a great way to kind of wrap that up. I think it's true. I think you feel free to challenge your students. I think they appreciate it, right?
They do.
They may not in the moment, maybe not always in the moment, but as they get older, I think there'll be a group of kids that are gonna be like, I'm really glad that I had that, because I can only go back to like this high school experience I had in Maine where it was hard.
Right.
Man. It was hard sometimes, and it was just because I was up there for a reason, right? I was really kind of placed there, but I look back on it now and I hated it in the moment.
Right.
Like I literally used to call home and click. They would hang up on me and be like, nope, we're not taking that call. And I'm like a million miles away from home. I might as well have been.
Yep.
But now I look back and go, man, that was such a cool experience. Like, I'm so glad I went through that. Like, so glad. Like, I think about it all the time. And when I can remember like wrestling and things like this, like they made me wrestle.
Yeah.
Cause I was like a hard ass. I thought I was cool.
It's funny you say that, because I was actually thinking about this very issue the other day. So with my senior capstone class, and I was like, how can I get kids to, work during class instead of working on something else? And it's like, part of me wants to, and I do tell them you should be using your time wisely. But then the other part is, I need to let them learn. And, as I started thinking through this, a lot of them won't understand the value of that class and what's going on until even later this year, even. And even then, some of them won't get it. Some of them won't get it until they're maybe in their junior or senior year of engineering school.
That's right.
And then they'll kind of go, oh, yeah.
But I think they'll appreciate it. Because if they did it, if others that didn't have it, they'll feel like they have a little bit of an advantage, I think.
Yeah.
Having come from that, I think that's So I love that approach, and so I've enjoyed this. Look, I really have enjoyed this. I think let's let on that. Like, I think you can put some pressure on these kids. It'll do them well. In the right environment. It is a different world. We're not advocating that we bring paddles and erasers up the side of the head back, but put them into. I think they want it, and I think to your point, I think they'd like it. So, Tony, if anything, where can we find you? We can find you on LinkedIn. You're on X and other places.
LinkedIn,
where else?
X, Instagram. You can find me all over those places. I don't get on Facebook much, but
we'll link you all over at LinkedIn and Instagram and X. And for those of you who know anybody that has the grant program over at NASA, forward it on. Tony,
absolutely.
We'll put all your things there.
Hey, it was good rapping with you. I love this.
Yeah, you too, man. Thank you so much. All right, we'll talk soon. All right, bye.